Ccleaner is an application that's used to perform some pretty interesting preventative maintenance against the accumulation of temporary files on a machine. And temporary files can start to fill up your hard drive over time and do need to be removed, as when your system is running an antivirus scan, it does have to scan those temporary files as well. Makes your scans run for longer, but also gives other types of files of infection other places to hide. And in some cases can cause little issues in office environments. Certain accumulations of temporary files can cause programs like Microsoft Office to not function properly. And this can be caused from loading some documents from a website and so on. So this is a pretty good step for pretty much any PC. And the settings I'm going to go through are pretty much the blanket statement settings that can be used for pretty much any type of user. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open my browser of choice. I'm currently using Microsoft Edge, as most of the Windows 10 computers come pre-configured with this, and most users have already started using it. So the first thing I'll do is I have Microsoft Edge open now. I'm going to go ahead and just go on over to google.com. I'm going to search for Ccleaner, all one word, Ccleaner. Do a quick search. Now the people who make it is parafilm.com. These are the guys I'd say you need to download it from. So ccleaner/download. I'm going to click on that guy. There are 3 versions available. After you've used it for a while, I'd say, hey, if you want to, you can go ahead and buy it. But this piece of software right here, the free version, works just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and download that version. Clicking that link should automatically start. And once it's finished, it should go into your download folder, no matter what browser you're using. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and hit run. Windows is going to ask me for permission for Ccleaner's installer to run. I'm going to go ahead and hit yes. Now, that's pretty direct settings that we're going to take here. We're going to start out by hitting next. We're going to uncheck these bottom 2 options here and leave these top 4 up. The reason is I would like to add a desktop shortcut. If you don't want a desktop shortcut, remove it. Same goes for start menu shortcut, which of course it's talking about here. And these 2 options here are pretty important. These are just kind of ease of use options I like to keep running. A lot of the times I install these on clients' computers, I leave them here and give them directions on how to utilize these 2 options instead of going the long way to launch the application. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and hit install. Pretty quick installation. I'm not going to check either of these 2 options because I'm going to show you how to launch it. I'm going to close out of Edge. Now that I have a Ccleaner icon on my desktop, I'm going to go ahead and double click that. Now I've already pre-configured these settings, and the reason I've done that is because I want to spend more time talking about the ones that I didn't select. So starting out with Microsoft Edge, I'm deleting the internet cache, which is the accumulation of pictures and just junk files that the browser comes up with. History, if you like. Some people like to keep their history. I don't really care for it because I don't ever really look back at my history. Cookies. Some sites, and the reason I don't have this clicked, is some sites will actually store logon information inside of a cookie, meaning that if you're not the type of person who keeps track of their passwords and knows every single one of them by heart, or maybe a type of person who works in an office environment that's reliant on these cookies, I'd say just don't check it, because if you delete those cookies, you'll have to be typing that information in again, or trying to get that information back somehow. Download history. I downloaded Ccleaner. I don't really need to know what I've downloaded, because if I need it again, I'll just go back out to the site and grab it. Now, the one that kind of confuses people is session. And session comes across as many different types of terminology, but session basically is when a browser closes accidentally, or you close a browser, the windows that were up when it closed can open again the next time. It makes little to no difference in file size. It's not, megabytes of data. It's a few kilobytes. It's not a lot of information. So I leave it unchecked because I think it's a cool feature if the power goes out. Recently typed URLs. I'd say if you're deleting your internet history, you can go ahead and delete this, because these 2 are pretty much roughly tied together inside of Microsoft Edge. Save forms and passwords, for the same reason I don't remove cookies. And this is basically the settings we're going to use in Internet Explorer, which is also installed on Windows 10, but it's not the main browser. But sometimes people still use it, especially in office environments. So I'd say delete these guys. And sometimes just removing those causes a situation where if you had a website that wasn't working right, by clearing these, it makes it work again. I tell it to empty the recycle bin. Make sure you know what's in there and that it's okay to be removed, because if you run this program, it empties the recycle bin and it's gone forever. Temporary files, this is talking about Windows installation files for updates and things like that, that after the update applies, it just leaves on the hard drive somewhere. You can just have those removed. It's no big deal, so go ahead and check that. I don't check these because these can be critical in situations. You can check this. These can be critical in situations where, say for example, actually I'm going to uncheck that. If you have to take your computer into a repair shop, or you have a technician on site that works on a computer, Windows logs, error reporting, these things are important to be able to see. The reason I uncheck that is that I just thought of it in office environments. Sometimes it's nice to not erase your clipboard where you had something important copy and pasted to. DNS cache and font cache. I remove these two because sometimes DNS issues can occur in a network and it just stores the wrong information and you get websites not popping up properly and things like that. Wiping it out just causes the computer to rebuild the information fresh, which is better because it's up to date. This is not actually deleting your shortcuts off your desktop in your start menu. It is looking for ones that link to nothing and removing them. Prefetch data. I remove these because prefetch data is like shortcut information. If you launch an application, it stores a little bit of information into prefetch, and then after you've launched an application, say, and you haven't done it in 2 weeks, that information could still be in your prefetch. And erasing it is not going to affect your day-to-day operations. It kind of is the same idea as this DNS cache. When it's out of the prefetch, it just goes and gets it again. So it's not going to affect you. Now you'll have another tab up here called Applications. I don't really check these. You can, if you want, every once in a while, just erase all these. But they accumulate such a small amount of information that even if I deleted all of them, I'd probably come up with like 2 megabytes. So it's really no big deal. When I'm doing an initial clean on a machine that's never been cleaned, I go ahead and remove them all, because sometimes you just need to get back to an even playing field. But it's not important to delete them every single time. Also, if you have Chrome and Firefox installed, this is where they'll show up. They'll show up underneath the Applications tab. This Windows tab here, you'll see how we have configured Microsoft Edge and Internet Explorer. It'll be pretty much the same terminology for Chrome and Firefox, except that they have an option called compact databases. Always do that, because basically they store their information much the same way that the cookies and the session and this index.dat do for the Microsoft browsers, but they compact them inside of a database, and then when they get removed, it leaves the size of the space that was utilized by the information there. And by compacting the databases, it shrinks it down so it takes up less space. It also makes the browser run better. After you do that, you have everything checked that you want. You can hit Analyze. It finds everything that hits one of these markers, brings it up on the screen here. So we can see that I've got about 80 megabytes-ish of temporary internet cache. I'm going to go ahead and clean that out. Sometimes it'll say skipped, and the reason it does that is because that browser might be running in the background, and I do have it running on a separate user on this computer, so that couldn't remove everything. Another option here, feature I should say, is you go underneath the registry. Registry Cleaner is nice. This does basically a comparative match for issues inside of the registry, and the registry is where every single little setting and every little file and where it belongs to and such is stored inside the registry. And when a file gets updated, removed, made obsolete, it sometimes leaves that information in there. So it's nice to run this, but when you do run this and you hit scan for issues, unfortunately mine has none, you hit fix issues and it'll ask if you need to back it up. You don't really need to back this up. You can if you like, if you feel like if you're making some massive system changes, and sometimes I recommend doing that if a PC's never had its registry cleaned, or if you're in an office and you run some special software. But one key thing to remember is you're going to need to do this about 3 or 4 times. And the reason for that is sometimes registry issues will be dependent objects to a primary issue. So say, like, for example, this one here's an issue, and everything underneath of it's related to it. I'm probably won't be able to see these guys until I fix all of these issues as well. So sometimes you have to run this 3 or 4 times. I'm going to go ahead and close it and show you how you can quick launch this. Say I've been browsing for a couple months and I feel like I need to delete the temporary cache and I've had a bunch of Windows updates and such. I can right click on my recycle bin and tell it I'd like to run Ccleaner. And it'll do it in the background. It's not going to pop up anywhere. It's just going to do its job and finish, which is very nice because it gives you the quickest possible way to just dump the trash data.